We're going to go through a little bit of the highlights of advocacy that we've been, our hits, as we like to call it, from 2021, to give an idea of some of the work that MassBike's been doing to tie it into some of the work that we just heard about that's happening throughout the state. Jess, would you be able to pop that slideshow in? Thank you. Awesome. So these are quick, and I realize that we're all getting a little zoomed out, so let's just roll through them. Back in March, MassBike was able to host the Massachusetts Coalition at the League of American Bicyclists National Bike Summit. Now, the National Bike Summit is open to all advocates, and I highly, highly encourage you to attend. If you can't attend in person, there is a virtual component. And one of the benefits of the virtual component is we set up meetings with our elected officials in Washington so that they can hear directly from their constituents about what matters to them. In March, we were able to pull together, we have hosted, I think it was 11 meetings in a day. This is a screenshot of our virtual meeting with Senator Markey's team. But this led to real change. Senator Markey was actually able to include in the INVEST Act, the Complete Streets Act. We're getting funding for electric bicycle rebates. We're getting funding for transportation alternatives, which is how most of our bike lanes, crosswalks, bus shelters come from. We were able to expand that dramatically in the new Biden administration. And we were actually able to build up our Safe Routes to Schools credibility. An attendee here at this summit joined from Newton and ran the Safe Routes to Schools task force in Newton, had this idea of being a bike-friendly driver. Big shout out to just taking an idea and up-leveling it. And now we have a program about being a bike-friendly driver through the Safe Routes to Schools program, which came from a constituent. So I can't recommend highly enough that if you want to get your voice in, the National Bike Summit, hosted by the League of American Bicyclists, is probably one of the best direct ways, and that's coming in March. Next up. Another huge shout out to a win this year. If Rep. Sabadosa, Lindsay Sabadosa from First Hampshire is still on the call, we had her as a featured speaker last year when we were talking about the statewide and national push. She took on as one of her champion causes this year to get the Community Preservation Act funding codified in law so that CPA dollars can go to buy rail trails. Now, this was a very nuanced bit of a law we needed to clarify so that there was not that competition to say, oh, well, it's not technically open space if it's a preservation of a rail corridor. A little bit of nuances there. It took a law that needed to be signed by the governor. Rep. Sabadosa, Rep. Gentile, and Senator Eldridge were our main champions. We got it in the governor's budget. This is going to be a huge deal, specifically for Southampton, for those of you in the Valley, also in Framingham, also in Sudbury, and really all communities that have Community Preservation Act funding could go to acquire rail trails. And a quick little nod, this photo here is on the border of Connecticut and Massachusetts. This is the Farmington Canal as it turns into the Westfield Columbia Greenway, which will then eventually roll up through Southampton to connect to the Manhan Trail, which connect to the Mass Central Rail Trail, which will then connect to 110 miles to go all the way into the city of Boston. So this crucial component of a small little change of a bill will allow cities and towns to use money to fill in those gaps. And I can't say thank you so much to our champions in the State House, specifically for this one example for Rep. Sabadosa, Rep. Gentile, and Senator Eldridge, but we have a bunch of different legislative pushes that we're pursuing here. But this was a huge win. It's not every year that we get to say that we were supportive of a law that actually got implemented. Another one that we are very proud of is our expanding of our education. Now, really, this is a program that MassBike runs, but there's a huge tie into advocacy because the more riders that we have, the smarter riders that we have, and the more diverse riders that we have, age-wise, ability-wise, the better riding can be for everybody and the more advocates that are born. So we were able to develop our older adults riding program this year. Credit goes to the city of Cambridge for funding this pilot program to get us out every week riding with seniors. And we're going to expand our work working with the AARP of Massachusetts to really build into our Safe Routes to Schools curriculum, a Safe Routes to Parks, a Safe Routes to Senior Centers, and that's the ideology behind expanding our education system. And a little nod to the new trained instructors. We were able to get 15 certified new instructors out there this year that we're going to lean on to run these classes throughout the state. Next up, another great one along our education campaign is working with the MBTA bus operators. We revamped, working with Livable Streets Alliance and the MBTA, the training that bus operators have to go through. Now, this is in line with the new bus bike lanes that are happening in the Metro Boston area. A lot of bus drivers were unclear about how to share the roads when it's a dedicated lane for bus drivers and bike riders. We realized the MBTA training was done back in 2008, which was before Boston even had bike lanes. So working with Livable Streets, the city of Cambridge, the MBTA, we were able to build a new deck, which is an all-day training program that all new drivers have to go through. And we're looking to expand this program to other RTAs. So those of you out there, if you are part of a regional transit authority or know other bus drivers or fleets that could benefit from bus driver and bus operator training around how to drive around bicyclists, please get in touch with us. We're looking to scale out this work. This work is endless. Next up, a couple of advocacy wins. One that we've been working on for honestly better part of a decade. We were working on, hopefully every year we'll have a big infrastructure win. Our big infrastructure win this year was when MassDOT announced that in I-90, as it approaches Boston, they're gonna rebuild the crumbling highway system and make it at grade. And the idea of what it means to have the roadway on the ground will facilitate biking and walking pathways that we can actually go over the highway and extend back into the community. For those of you who have ever been in Brookline or stood in the backside of Boston University and seen the river pathway, the Paul Lillywhite pathway about 200 feet away, but to know it's completely inaccessible by infrastructure, by having MassDOT decide to actually build on the ground is a huge decision win. Now we have to pursue this. This is going to be the next 10 to 15 years worth of advocacy to make sure this actually gets followed through with. But MassBike's at the table. I'm on this task force. I'm one of the founding members of this task force, and we're going to lean very heavily into this major infrastructure project. Next up is a local advocacy win. I want to give shout outs to one of our staffer interns, Petru from Arlington, who really held down the localist of local battles in terms of will the town of Arlington redesign one of the most dangerous intersections in their community to actually put in a protected bike lane. And for what it's worth, this is a after shot of the green paint, the elephant footprint, as Petru likes to call it, the bollards, the flex posts, the separation and the safety that comes in, and the awareness for drivers of riding through areas that are cycling infrastructure. This sadly came at the heels of a fatal crash of Charlie Proctor in 2020 in May. The town of Arlington, to its credit, went through the entire process of forming a design review committee, getting it through the select board, forming the committee, having the committee meet for 8 months, having the decision go through a democratic process, and actually have the funding come through the town. And for those of you who know how long it can take to get a bike lane, within a year, the town of Arlington has installed this infrastructure. We are incredibly grateful for Petru's work and incredibly grateful for the work in the town of Arlington, but this is one example of where an intense amount of advocacy was actually able to come to a benefit for the whole community, which was a really tough conversation for the town to have. So we're very appreciative of all the time and energy that went into this one win right here. And this honestly could be one of thousands upon thousands of intersections across the Commonwealth, but to highlight this one as a win this year is especially heartwarming for us because this was not a guarantee that we were going to be able to get bike infrastructure here. And I think lastly, we'll give a shout out to our Lights Brigade. This is going to be a recurring slide that we have up every year. We love our Lights Brigade program. For those of you unfamiliar, the goal is to hand out as many lights throughout the Commonwealth as possible. Join up, hand out lights, help volunteer, donate to us so we can purchase more lights. We are going to hand out over 1,000 lights this year. We have a little bit more fundraising to go, which I'm going to make a pitch in 1 second and maybe pass it off to Crystal right before we round out here. But the idea of we need support. We need, there are as many cyclists out there in the world that also need lights. So just keep in mind that this is one of our major campaigns that we are pursuing here, and just brighten up. It makes cyclists safer, makes people who are riding bikes more legal so that they're not in conflict with police officers, and just makes it safer for all drivers and bike riders out there as well. So I think with that, that might be all I have for our highlight slides. I should also say with Bike Month, we're going to talk about Bike Month very shortly, about where we're going to go in 2022. But I will say that Bike Month this year was an incredibly challenging task to make sure that in the pandemic, we were able to keep the encouragement statewide. But I'm proud to say that we were able to support, not host, we were able to support over 100 events throughout the state. We were able to fundraise for this. We were able to get our business sponsors and our supporters out there. We were able to build how-to guides, and this will only expand and grow as we understand who is riding and support local efforts. So if you're interested in running a local bike rodeo, a local bike breakfast, or something that really just supports those riders in your community, keep in mind Bike Month is a great time of year. And this year it's going to be in May and coming up in the 2022 to get people out riding. And we're going to be there to provide you the resources and support so that you can lock this in and really kind of just get the momentum and the tailwinds behind it.